Okay, welcome to Lecture 3 in the Social and Behavioral Sciences course for executive students. Going all the way back to Lecture 1, we focused a lot about the drivers of health in the United States and globally, using this diagram as a sort of rough model for how to think about them. And we also looked at how these factors are changing over time in the United States. And that provides a sort of interesting lens for asking yourself, well, which of these factors are really driving health in the United States, and how do we think about them? As we think about the changes in risk factor over time, it's also really important to think about the historical context in which they occurred. One of the things we talked about last week was how politicians have opportunities to sort of turn the page on history at different points in time. Today, we'll sort of look at some of the methods for actually turning the page using traditional advertising modalities. The day after tomorrow, we'll take the next step and we'll move from traditional advertising techniques to techniques that use big data to influence the way that we think and feel and view the larger world. This form of advertising uses predictive analytics to first figure out who we are, what we want, and then change how we feel. One key point in all of this is that there's always some third way of doing things. There's always some kind of chess move that you can make to change a policy. And we talked a little bit about how Chile had used some pretty clever strategies for implementing universal health care, for instance. We also talked about how Chile was able to just sort of get rid of all these cute little rabbits and action figures on their cereal boxes. And we talked about the political changes that were required for all of this to happen. I think this is what the future looked like for most of us. The idea was that capitalism would be used as the primary tool for ending global poverty. The spoils from these capital gains would be used to invest in female education, reducing infant mortality, addressing infectious disease. There were some problems with this, of course. Huge islands of garbage floating in the ocean, air pollution, global warming. But on a personal level, things were looking better. Here's a quick look at the same trash island from outer space. Now, all of this was sort of oriented towards asking two major questions. What is the American dream, and what is the global dream? And how do we think about these things if they're malleable, if we can change them? So this is really what we're talking about today, hypnosis and health. And this looks a little bit more promising than the last few lectures. So what you're looking at here is San Francisco, and it might not be really recognizable to some of you because there's something here that is not here today. And that is a huge freeway running through the center of the city. While many cities had scrapped their public transit systems in this rapid shift towards cars, San Francisco sort of went the other way, and it proved to be a really interesting experiment because San Franciscans realized that they could live just fine without cars. Building more highways has led to a huge market for cars. People can reach properties far outside of the city that are much cheaper with a car, and the more freeways you build, the further out you can go. This means that automobiles become cheaper and urban cores become more congested, accident rates go up, and pollution rates go up. But what if you just flip this on its head and stop building all these freeways? It actually turns out that people get by just fine. People stop relying on cars and rely more on mass transit. Obviously, simply removing freeways isn't going to be palatable in most areas, so it raises the question, how do we get there? And one of the examples we're going to be using in class is the example of the radical shift in attitudes amongst Americans towards gay marriage.